Would someone like to explain to me how we made Kyrie Irving the villain of the NBA? I thought he was actually the one guy that we couldn't turn into a villain. Despite all the anti-vax stuff and him saying the earth was flat a while back, I actually don't hate Kyrie Irving. I think he's actually a pretty normal guy that just has a lot of, I guess, internal thoughts and is what you could say is woke. I don't necessarily have a problem with woke people as long as you're just not saying stupid ass stuff for attention, if that makes sense. And you could say Kyrie is definitely someone that's done that before, but regardless, it doesn't really affect his basketball play, and that's all I really care about. Some people don't like Kyrie because of what he did in Cleveland or what he did in Boston, and honestly, that's fine with you. And me personally, I don't have a problem with him, but a lot of you might. But somehow we have turned Kyrie Irving into the villain of this year's NBA playoffs. If you guys remember last year, we had Trae Young as the villain, which I don't even know how that got started. I mean, I knew New York kind of hated him because he terrorized that team. No disrespect to Trae Young, but with all due respect, you let a guy that looks like he's a lollipop that fell on the ground and had hair on it literally destroy an entire city and their mental health while we're at it.
Trae Young looks like my dad's dick. I never saw my dad's dick. He still looks like shit.
I think it's this video right here and this moment that just showed that Knicks fans have lost their damn mind. And to be honest, I might be somewhat the same way if a lollipop that was a midget destroyed my franchise and them having an opportunity to have success in the playoffs. I know it may seem like I'm ragging on Trae Young a lot, but I'm actually a really big fan of him. In fact, he's one of my favorite players, and this is all jokes. But seriously, coming back to Kyrie Irving, how did we let Kyrie become the villain? Why is it this man alone? And yes, I'm showing clips of him in Boston because I want to show the fact that Kyrie Irving and the Boston situation, I don't really understand. Like, I understand he made an empty promise, but I feel like those are pretty normal, especially now in the NBA. But the way they hate this man, you would have thought he would have done a Trae Young to them, basically. Also, didn't Kyrie play for Boston like 4 years ago? Like, y'all had 4 years ago to get over this. The man's been on Brooklyn for a minute now, and you guys are still hung up about it. It's not like you guys are in shambles without him. You guys are perfectly a successful team right now that could honestly make the NBA Finals, and if I'm being completely honest, might even have a chance to win it. Oh yeah, I know he kind of did disrespect Lucky, the Celtics logo, and just stomped on him, but you know what? Yeah, maybe there is a little bit of a reason to disrespect Kyrie if you're a Celtics fan. I'm now starting to see it. But again, wasn't that like 3 to 4 years ago? Like, I don't even remember when Kyrie did that. It definitely wasn't recently, I can tell you that. This is probably going to be the title of the video, but Kyrie Irving is basically the villain that we didn't ask for, but we kind of needed. The fact that Kyrie Irving flipped off a bunch of Celtics fans and the fact that he also literally told one to suck my dick after they said he sucked is stuff that I'm here for, because we've seen a lot of fans this year just straight up disrespect NBA players. Whether it was Devin Booker when someone told him he sucked and Booker responded with by saying you're a pussy, or even Russell Westbrook when the man was basically just being disrespected for a whole season. It's not that this isn't new, it's just that it's coming in a newer way that I guess is just a little more disrespectful. Maybe people are just thinking that they're hot shit because it's not like these players can hit them. I can't remember who said this comment, but someone commented this when I talked about Russell Westbrook, and he basically said like NBA players are starting to be treated like caged animals. You pay to see them and you can just treat them like shit and yell at them and throw things at them, which again is something I don't understand. I'm not saying we can't do things like boom at the free throw line and just like, oh, boo them when they suck and things like that. Like, that is completely normal. I'm not exactly worried about that. That's been in sports for years. But there comes a point where you're being a normal fan that is just booing someone to another line that I think a lot of fans are starting to cross this year. So the fact that Kyrie Irving came back and said suck my dick, I don't give a shit, honestly. I'm glad he did that, and I don't know if it's gonna stop people from doing it. If anything, I think it's gonna keep going a lot more so they get that type of reaction. Of course, Kyrie is going to get fined out of the ass for all the things he did, but I really don't think he gives a shit, I'm being honest. During this playoff slash play-in so far, I've learned about one thing that I can definitely remember, and that's the fact that you do not chant fuck Trae Young because bad things will happen. And I think that's what's happening with Kyrie. I don't think they had an F Kyrie chant going on in the crowd, but they definitely did a lot of disrespect to him, and he clearly took it out on Boston. Also, can we just give credit real quick to Kyrie Irving doing all this during Ramadan? I know it's being talked about constantly and it's a little annoying, but it is very impressive when you honestly do think about it. I mean, these are the playoffs we're talking about. These aren't regular season games where he can just skip them, or it doesn't matter if he does play and he doesn't do that well. Like, no, you need to play well during these games. So the fact he's staying committed is honestly very interesting to look at and just see how he's been able to perform. But honestly, I think he should continue with the fast because this man is a different breed during Ramadan. I think we have to talk about the series itself because Boston and Brooklyn is going to be the series of the year in my opinion, unless the Suns and Warriors play, but even then I think it's going to be right there. Also, I can't stress this enough, but this is only round 1 of the playoffs. Literally, we have arguably the best series in the first round. I think Boston had a pretty good game, you know, guys like Jason Tatum at 31, Al Horford, which shocked me, had 20 and 15 and was playing about 41 minutes, so I don't think you're going to see that too often. Also, Jaylen Brown had an efficient 23 points, and Marcus Smart even had his own 20, on top of Jason Tatum having the game-winning layup, which was the craziest thing I saw all day. I can't remember who, but someone responded to my tweet when I talked about saying that move was weak. Like, that was not a weak move. That was such a clean spin. I couldn't even do that myself if I tried. What's crazy is that blown play was all on Kevin Durant, and maybe the Celtics would have an opportunity to score it even if KD did guard his assignment. However, Kevin Durant lost them that game, so I mean, let's not also forget that Kevin Durant had the worst 23-point performance I think I've seen in a while. The man just played terrible this game. I hope it's just a one-game thing because if Kevin Durant plays like this for the entire series, then Boston is going to lock this up in about 5 or 6 games. Also, I don't think this is being talked about a lot, but Robert Williams isn't even playing for the Celtics right now. Like, he's still injured. So if this man pulled a Bill Murray from Space Jam and just showed up for game 6 or 7, I think that would definitely be clutch for the Celtics. However, it doesn't look that likely. He might be there in the 2nd round or 3rd round if they make it that far. I'm not entirely sure though. I think the most important player for the Nets is not going to be KD, and it's actually going to be Kyrie Irving. I don't expect Kyrie to average 39 points during this series. However, I do expect him to have efficient games like the one he had tonight. If Kyrie can average about 25 points per game during the series and Kevin Durant can pick it up and even have some of their role players like Bruce Brown or Seth Curry, even Nick Claxton do efficiently, then I think Brooklyn is going to have a fair shot at winning this series. Also, I don't know when this narrative got started that the Nets do not have any depth, because I remember the one thing that people said about the Nets is, oh, they have this big 3. Mind you, I'm talking about when they had James Harden, but their depth is amazing. I saw people giving them the edge on teams like the Suns and the Celtics, and I think the Warriors saying, oh, their bench depth was way better than them. However, their depth was always decent. It wasn't the best, but now are people saying it's non-existent. In my head, I still believe Brooklyn has a top 3 bench, probably behind the Suns and Warriors and maybe another team. I just probably can't think about it on the top of my head right now. But we're not going to use the argument that, oh, Kevin Durant or oh, Kyrie Irving does not have help, because that is just a complete lie. They don't have their big 3, but honestly, I think they're better without James Harden. I mean, why would you want someone that doesn't want to be there to play for your team? Because it's not like he was going to do well in the playoffs. Like, I'm just being honest, and I think we can all agree with that. I think this is going to be the best series so far that we've seen, at least for a while, and it's going to be interesting to see how these teams can adjust for the next game, which is going to be in a couple days. This is the one series I think we need to pay attention to, because honestly, there is a possibility that the winner of this could make it out the East to the NBA Finals. I feel like the series that had that same impact was last year when we had, I believe it was the Nets and the Bucks. I think last season we kind of just came to the conclusion that the winner of this series, when it was with Brooklyn and Milwaukee, was going to make it out the East, and they were absolutely right. In fact, one of them would go to be a champion. If Brooklyn can beat Boston, I think there's a possibility they are definitely suitable to make an NBA title run. A lot of people in my comment section have been saying they want to see a Suns Sixers or Suns Bucks rematch. That's actually the most popular one. However, I'm really seeing Suns and Celtics right now. If it was a Suns and Bucks rematch, I wouldn't be totally surprised. However, I still have Boston as the favorite in the East, in my opinion, from what I've seen from them. So with that being said, if Brooklyn does get the win, I could definitely see them making a run to the finals, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see because it's only one game. And if Kyrie Irving keeps playing like the villain he is, then there's no doubt in my mind that Brooklyn is going to keep this series very interesting. It's also gonna make for some dope ass content.